Now, one of the most frequently asked questions that I've seen and received is the question of how do you choose the right funds to invest in? In this video, I'm going to share with you how I analyze, compare, and select a handful of funds to invest in among the thousands of other selections in the market. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. Alignment to the investment strategy. The first filter that I have is that the fund must be aligned to the overarching investment strategy, both in terms of the underlying exposure and the fund management style itself. Now take me as an example. My strategy is to design a portfolio that enables me to capture Asia regional growth in the next 10 to 15 years, while diversifying across the entire world. Having said that, the funds that I will be including in the selection process will naturally be the regional funds, and in particular, the funds with Asia and global market exposure. And that automatically excludes your country and sectorial funds as they are not aligned with the investment strategy. From there, the next thing that I'll look at is the alignment between the fund manager's investment style and my personal investment style. Now obviously, you do not want to select a fund that has a completely different investment style and approach from you, as it will result in a very unpleasant experience as you try to ride through the ups and downs of the market with the fund that you've selected. Depending on your investment style, beliefs, and methodology, the type of funds that will fall under your consideration will be vastly different. While the market likes to generalize things to be either passive or active, I prefer to see things on a scale rather than in extremes. On the left-hand side, you have your index funds that provide exposure to a specific sector, country, or region. Now, these are suitable for people who subscribe to the efficient market hypothesis. On the right-hand side, you have your actively managed funds, who pretty much invest in anything that they deem profitable. These are suitable for people who believe that the market is inefficient. Somewhere in the middle, you have your passively managed funds that invest in a way that closely resembles the index, but takes certain actions to improve its performances. This had allowed them to generate a higher return without deviating too much from the index itself. Now, as someone who does not subscribe to the efficient market hypothesis, I tend to seek out for passively managed funds that can deliver slightly higher returns than the index itself without deviating too much from the index underlying exposure. If there are no good passively managed funds, I will then fall back to the index fund itself just for the market exposure. Number 2. Operating history of the fund. Now, after you've decided on the categories of funds that are suitable to be included in your portfolio, the next step is to filter the funds within the category itself. The goal of this exercise is to identify the best fund within each category, and the challenge here is to separate the funds that have performed well as a result of skill from the funds that have performed well as a result of luck. To do so, the first thing that I look out for is the operating history of the fund itself. You can find this information in the fund fact sheets. If a fund does not have an operating history of more than 10 years, it is quite difficult to discern whether its past performance are as a result of proper skill of the fund manager or just dumb luck. In addition, it will be good if the fund had a long enough operating history such that they had experienced periods of recession or financial crisis. The reason for this is because it shows that the fund can survive and come out of a difficult environment, and that alone is an indication that they are doing something right. To give you an example of what I mean, look at ARK. Even with an operating history of 8 years, the fund itself had underperformed the benchmark despite having periods of significant outperformances. Given such a situation, can you be confident to say that the short-term performances is as a result of skill and not luck? I can't. And that brings me to my next point. Number 3. Past performances. Now that we filter out the funds that are not in the category that is suitable to be included in your portfolio, as well as the funds that do not have more than 10 years of operating history, the last thing that I'll look at is the past performances across the last 10 years. With a long enough operating history, you can tell a lot about the fund manager's skill and abilities just by looking at how the fund had performed against its index as well as its peers. Typically, fund managers who are skillful at what they do will generate a return that looks something like this. minor outperformances that accumulates and compound over time, instead of what we've seen from the case of 𝘀𝘁, which is a case of a short-term outperformances that is not sustainable in the long run. Now, apart from just returns, we will also be looking at the risk-adjusted performances across the sectorial average. Ideally, a fund manager who is good at what he does will provide a higher return given a unit of risk, which is often measured by standard deviation. As such, at any given standard deviation, the best fund is the fund that provides the highest return over a long duration of time. Summary. So there you have it. This is how you can go about to choose the right funds to invest in. To recap, the first criteria is that the fund's underlying exposure and management style must be aligned to your own investment strategy. The second criteria are that the fund must have a minimum operating history of more than 10 years. The third criteria are that the fund's performances must be consistently better as compared to its sectorial average for both the total returns as well as the risk-adjusted return. Now that's all I have for this video today. If you found this video useful, do drop me a like and subscribe to this channel to stay updated with the weekly upload. If you do not know how to get started with your own investments, or if you do not have the time to manage your own investments, you can consider engaging an independent financial advisor who can help you make sense of the market and shortcut your wealth accumulation process. To find out more information about how you can benefit from my financial and investment planning services, you can check out what I do on my website and reach out to me directly. The link is in the description below. Stay safe and I hope to hear from you soon.